One more time. Counting money up. Yeah, they call me Mr. Krabs. Taking cash to the bank. Yeah. I'm done, bro. Oh, man. Welcome to the Living Proof Podcast. Today, we are talking about you. Yes, you on the other side of this screen. And why I say that is because today in church, and I find it crazy coincidental that right before I went to church, I was having the same thought. The pastor mentioned that sometimes we feel like we're wondering, God, why me? Why did you choose me? Why was I a part of the plan that you chose for either this people around me or my life or anything like that? And I find it crazy because I woke up this morning and was thinking about just some situations that have happened this week, and I was wondering, why me? Like, why do I have to go through these things? Why must I be the person to then go through this suffering? But if I guess we'll get to why in a little bit, but that's just kind of the topic for today. Like, why did God choose me? Why was I, or why are you a part of God's plan? And I want to start off by reading 1 Peter chapter 2 verses I guess verse 8 through 10. We'll read that for now. Verse 8 starts, "And he is the stone that makes people stumble, the rock that makes them fall." Because that's talking about God after people reject him. So he is the stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone, and he is the stone that makes people stumble, the rock that makes them fall, right? They stumble because they do not obey God's word, and so they meet the fate that was planned for them. But you are not like that. For you are a chosen people. You are a royal priest, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for he called you out of the darkness into his wonderful light. Once you had no identity as a people, but now you are God's people. Once you received no mercy, now you have received God's mercy. And so, this section right here kind of sets up the foundation of what we need to think about when we're thinking about why God has called us, right? We are set apart as a royal priest, a holy nation, God's own very possession, right? When you're somebody's possession, when you have a possession, you're not going to give that up easily. And you're going to want to hold that possession close to you. You're going to want to use that possession in every aspect of your life. I have, in this Bible, I have a notebook that I'm going to show you all today. And it looks like this, right? Monkey D. Luffy, right? And I got this notebook from one of my friends, Coco, 3 years ago on my birthday when I turned 18. And since that moment, I have not opened the book. I only took it out of its wrapping paper today. I haven't even used it because, to me, it was a prized possession, right? It was something that I wanted to cherish, I wanted to value, and I wanted to make sure that when the time was right, I could use it for a purpose that was befitting of its nature. And so I saved it. I kept it in my wrapping paper. I never unwrapped it until today because today I realized the purpose I'm going to use it for. But that's besides the point. The point is that I had this possession that was very cherished to me. I valued it very much. And so in that sense, I'm going to set it aside because I want it to be used for something that is worth, something that is important, something that is of value, something that I think is deemed necessary to use that prized possession for. And so when God is calling us to be his very own possession, right? He's calling us to be set aside for a purpose that we are specifically made for. It's not just something that you're used for and then you kind of toss it away. It's not like a napkin where there are 50,000 napkins that come in packets and you just take one, wipe your mouth, and throw it away. No. You are a possession. You are a prize. You are a holy nation, a royal priesthood. Royal means you are above the normal, like the middle class, so to speak, which is not saying you're above people. But in God's eyes, you are above the other creations. We as humans are made in the image of God, which is more important. What just happened? Which is more important, which is more important than what is going on. We have more value to God than animals. I think that's pretty evident. We have more value to God than all his other creation. And so when we're thinking about a royal priesthood, we are the royalty that are heirs to the throne with Christ, right? And so we're not just another possession to be thrown around. We're not just another possession to be given to any certain thing, like that notebook, and like any other possession you have in your life that may be prized. When you think about it, you want to use it for something that is worth it. You don't want to waste it. There is a phrase, or a lot of people have said that when you go around, one thing you hate to do is waste a good outfit on a bad day, right? And we know that because the outfit is our possessions, right? But we put it together, we meticulously plan it, and we schedule it so that when it falls on a certain day, it will be a day that is worth it, a day that is worthy of said good outfit. And when that day switches up, or when something happens, when plans change, it's like, oh man, I put together this outfit. This outfit is I really like it. And now I'm going to waste it on a day that, to me, isn't worth it. And so when we think about ourselves and why God chooses us in his plan, we can think about ourselves as our own possessions. When we're someone's possession, we want to be used in a way that it makes it worth it. Or when we have possessions, we want to use them in a way that's worth it. So when God chooses us, when he specifically calls us out as his royal priesthood, as his holy nation, as his possession, his own possession, not somebody else's, his own, he wants to set us aside to use us for the time that we are most effective, when he thinks it will be worth it, right? And when we think it's worth it is not always when he thinks it's worth it, right? Our ways are lower than his ways. His ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than his thoughts. So what he thinks about us, what he thinks about our worthiness, or where we're most effective in life, or where we are called to be, is definitely going to be different than you. It's definitely going to be different than the person next to you. And it's definitely going to be different than the world, who thinks that our worth is only maybe in money, or our worth is only in our identity, meaning like who we are and how famous we are. Our worth is only in our accomplishments and what we do in this life. Like, there are so many things that set people apart in this world and give us reason to be called in this world, but that's not what God looks at. God sets us apart. Before he even knew us in the womb, he chose us and set us apart so that we could be used for his purpose. Sorry. But I say that because when I think about this section, especially verse 10, once you had no identity as a people and now you are God's people, like, we once didn't know we were his possession and we didn't know our purpose. I think sometimes of Christmas Day, when you receive a gift from your relatives and it's something like a sweater or a book, and I know we were all kids and we all wanted the games and the toys, and so when we got a book or when we got a piece of clothing, we were like, oh wow, thanks. And then the back of our heads were like, what am I going to do with this, right? Like, how am I going to use this to further the advancement of my game or further the advancement of my enjoyment? And sometimes I feel like when we were outside of Christ, when I was outside of Christ, I felt like I had been just given, I felt like my life was just like that gift that was given, like a book or a sweater or something like that, where I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I didn't have a purpose. I was just kind of there. Like, yes, it was nice, and yes, it was good to live day by day, but what was it all for? What was the point? What was my purpose? Was I a gift just to be given because gifts are meant to be given on Christmas, or was there some intention behind me being given, you know? And so when I think about having an identity now as God's people, I now have been given, as his prized possession, I've been given a purpose to be used. I now have a reason to go out and to be kind to one another. I now have a reason to go out and glorify God's name because there is motive behind it, and he has called me, he has set me apart. Because God is great. That is why I do it. It's not because I'm great. It's not because I'm the best possession in the world, because God doesn't need to use me. We're his own possession, but he doesn't have to use us. He doesn't need us at all. He chose to create us. He chose to use us so that we can glorify his name and that we can share a part of his glory because he loves us that much. And so when you think about your royal priesthood, when you think about us being set apart as a holy nation, it's much easier to think about, oh, I'm not all that. I don't know why God's using me, as opposed to God chose to use me. Let me see what he wants out of my life to give to others, right? I think about all the times I've had stories or conversations with people, and how if it had been anybody else, or if I had lived my life a different way, I wouldn't be able to give some of the testimonies I've given in my life. I wouldn't be able to proclaim the Lord's name so boldly because I wouldn't have gone through the situations I went through. I wouldn't have been the me that I am today if I had not gone through the situations that were a little rough, the rough patches in life, the trials and tribulations, the moments that had me crying on the floor like, God, why are you doing this to me? I didn't see it then, but I see it now. And in the same sense, it's like getting a what's the word? It's like getting a credit card or a bank account, right? As you're a kid, if you're a kid and you get a credit card, you are not gonna know what that's for. You're gonna be like, oh, spend money, blah blah blah. But your parents know that when you get a credit card, it's for the purpose of building credit later, so that later on you can get loans from the bank and you can buy houses and things of that nature because you have a score that's already built up from before. But that's built up over time. That's built up through purchases. And while you're seemingly, unbeknownst to you, you're just spending money and your parents are paying it and blah blah blah, your credit is being built up in your name. Credit is being built up for you so that when you get your own card, when you have your own account to manage, you've already had these things happen to you. So to the point where you know, okay, I now have a good credit score because of all the things I've done before. And when that gets explained to me, now I know better to not mess that up because they've been managing it so well for me. Now I have to manage my own money. In the same sense, God is building us up. He's building our credit up. Well, we're not seeing it. So we're just going, having fun, blah, blah, blah. Our parents may tell us not to buy something. God may tell us not to do something. And we'd be like, why? You've been letting me do all these things before. You've been letting me make all these purchases before. So why all of a sudden now are you trying to stop me? But God sees further down the line than we do. Our parents see further down the line than we do. And they know that if they keep spending, they're going to have to take something else out of their budget that is not a negotiable. They're going to have to take something else out of our life that we don't want to take out. And God's going to have to do something drastic that he doesn't want to do. And so he calls us to stop. He calls us to listen. He calls us to back up a little bit, to slow down. And so we can actually understand and process why he's doing that in our life, why he's causing these situations to happen so that he can build up our credit, continue to build it up, and we can have a benefit in the future. All that to say, when you're thinking about why God chose you, there's so much more that goes into it than just the immediate moment you see. And so I know there is a verse. What am I thinking of? I can't think of it. I just lost the thought. But dude, I just thought of it and I think I lost it. Was it James? It might be James. Let me see real quick. Please bear with me for just 1 second. Yes. Okay. I don't know why that took me so long. Sorry. James chapter 1, verse 2. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. In this sense, the endurance that is being developed, that is our credit, right? That is our credit that's being built up by using this credit card. And God has given us this credit card of a life to use, but he doesn't want us to just go willy-nilly with it and buy things because then we'll be in debt. Then we'll have something to pay back, and what we will pay back will be greater than our own life, which is the eternal punishment of hell. But when we realize that this life has been given to us as a gift, when we realize these purchases are not made on our own money, but they're made with the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, we then realize that there is something being incurred from those purchases, and that is the endurance that is run. And not every purchase is easy. Some things cost a lot of money. Some things are really going to put a dent in our bank account. And that may be our spiritual bank account. That may be our actual financial bank account. But even then, it still has an effect on our spirit. And so we may be like, oh, Lord, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can get through the month. I don't know if I can get through the year with this low spiritual reserve that I have. But God allows us to build up endurance because when we make those purchases and he gives us that strength back, we get endurance. Our credit is built up. And so when our credit is built up, we have more liability to go to further extents in a sense, right? I don't know if everyone watching this probably knows this. If you don't know this, I don't even know if I'm going to explain it that well. But if you have good credit, you can apply for better credit cards that give you a greater sum of money from the bank to be used. So let's say you start with $500 of credit and you manage that $500 credit card really well. The next time you apply for a credit card, you could probably apply for $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000. And that number will keep going up as your credit you keep demonstrating that you pay off your debts at a timely manner and you don't incur any actual debt or ask for loans and don't pay them back, stuff like that. Essentially, the more credit you build up, the more allowance you have for spending and buying greater things, which will then help you build up credit more because you'll have more money to spend and more money to pay back. So essentially, when God's building up our endurance, the more endurance we have, the more situations we can go through, which may take a lot of money out of our accounts. But in the end, we'll be able to pay it off because God's been building that up in us. He's been building up that knowledge and understanding that we are not running a race on our own power. We are running a race with his power, and he has the strength. He has the money. He has the finances to support us if we want to rely on him. When we're relying on our own strength for our own identity, we're using a credit card that is in somebody else's name on our own account without any regard to them. And so when we incur these debts, when we have these penalties, we're not going to be like, oh Lord, I'm sorry, I'm going to come back to you. We don't know our identity, so we're going to be like, oh, where are these penalties coming from? What the heck? And we're going to take it up at the bank, and we're going to get mad, and we're going to be. This analogy is going way farther than I thought it would be, and I feel like it's very representative of our day and age. But I don't want to take it too far to the point where I'm running around in my own head. But the point being is that the penalties I'm talking about is like worldly things that happen, the bad and the suffering and the things like that. If we're looking at the Lord and understanding that's because we're not following his rules of using the credit card, then we're going to realize that, okay, God's punishing me because I'm not using the card properly. Let me use it properly. Let me use my life properly and give it back to him. If we're not looking at him, if we're looking at the world and the bank and being like, this is your fault, and not, or blaming God and being like, this is your fault, then we're not looking at the rules that were given to us when we got the card. God clearly lists out things in the Bible that we can do to follow him, to trust in him. Otherwise, we're going to be living in the world and bad things will happen because the world's incurred with sin. That is the permanent punishment. That is the permanent penalty of this life's credit card. Sin. Sin will always be there. It is a constant denominator of every single situation that you're ever in. But because that sin is there, there's a reason to turn to God, or there's a reason to turn away from him. And a lot of people in this world turn away from him because sin exists. When in reality, it should be the opposite. We know the penalties are coming. So why don't we adhere to the card's rules so that we can get more endurance, so that we can gain more allowance, so that we can suffer through more things, we can endure through more things, we can go through more trials with God's strength. Long-winded analogy to wrap up the point that when God calls us to do things, when he calls us to suffering, we shouldn't be asking. I mean, it's okay to, it's understandable to ask, why me? It's understandable to ask, why is God putting me in this situation? But don't think about it as a negative thing. Think about it like, why is God putting me in this situation? Like, how can I turn my perspective around so that I'm focusing on my endurance that's being built up, my credit that's being built up, as opposed to just focusing on the negative of the situation, like the world is, focusing on the penalties and focusing on the suffering and focusing on the death and focusing on the trials. Yes, these things are happening, especially right now, because I don't know what the president is doing, but apparently we're starting a war. So that's cool. Why? I don't know. I didn't really watch his whole address. I just heard the jokes and the memes about it, as I do. But I'm praying for the people in Iran, and I'm praying for our own country as well, because there's just so much everything going on. But that's besides the point. The point being that so much death and suffering in the world is easy to turn around and be like, what kind of company is this that's just giving me all these bad penalties and bank statements and random purchases and fees popping up when I didn't even sign up for all this? But that's what happened when Adam and Eve sinned in the beginning of... I'm going to stop with the money analogy, but that's what happens when Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. They took their own will. They had their own idea of what free will meant. They wanted to be like God. So they took that risk, and now they pay the price. And we all have to pay the price. And that's just how the world is. And so when we think about why God's called us in our situations, we have to think about how it looks, not only from our perspective, but from God's perspective. And how our suffering looks from his perspective. What our suffering does from his perspective. Because it builds up more than just immediate satisfaction, more than just immediate, more than just immediate pleasure, right? If we go to 1 Corinthians, and it's also, I'm going to 1 Corinthians 12 right now, but I say that because it's also, like, we are useful, right? And we're not just a useless being on this planet that God chose to use for no reason. Like, he has a purpose for us. The same way we're a prized possession that needs to be used for something that's worthy, we're not going to be used for something that is unnecessary. Like, God needs us around. No, whoa. God does not need us around. He is going to use us in his plan in a certain way. I'm not going to say he needs us. He doesn't need us. God doesn't need anything. He's God. But for the plan that he has made, for his will, we are a necessary part of that. And we are the catalyst through which he works. And 1 Corinthians 12 is a great example of that. If we go to it, if I can find it, right? If we go to verse 4, there are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit is the source of them all. There are different kinds of service, but we serve the same Lord. God works in different ways, but it is the same God who does the work in all of us. A spiritual gift is given to each of us so we can help each other. To one person, the Spirit gives wise advice. To another, the same Spirit gives a message of special knowledge. The same Spirit gives great faith to another, and someone else, the one Spirit gives the gift of healing. He gives one person the power to perform miracles and another the ability to prophesy. He gives someone else the ability to discern whether a message is from the Spirit of God or from another spirit. Still another person is given the ability to speak in unknown languages, while another is given the ability to interpret what is being said. And so, I have in my notes here that I've written, all these gifts given by the same Spirit are for the same purpose, the good of the Lord. So there should be no diversity. We are all a part of one body working towards a common goal. If we were all the same, then we would miss out on so much. We each bring something special and useful to the table. That is why God has chosen to save us a seat. He has use for us. And that specific last sentence, that is why God chose to save us a seat. Because he is reserving a seat at the table for us. We all have a seat next to him. Last Supper type vibes. We all have a seat at that table. And it's not just because one person is better than the other. It's not just because one person is useful. Like I wrote here, God has a use for all of us. Us being alive is necessary for his plan, whether it be for now or whether it be for ages down the line. The reason we are alive is because he wants to use us. He wants to use you. And it's not just something that you should regard as, if God wants to use me, I guess I'll see what he wants. No, it's like a joyful thing. The creator of the universe wants to use you. He wants to use you and me and everybody else on this planet to further his glory. How incredible is that you get to be a part of that plan, that we get to be a part of that plan? Isn't that amazing? Imagine if your favorite anime, your favorite video game, your favorite TV show, right? They were creating another episode. They were creating another season, let's say. Or the video game was creating another game, right? The creator. And they decided to ask you specifically to help with making their game great. They decided to ask you specifically to help with their show, that you can be either a main cast member or a side cast member or the writer, script writer, director, whatever. Imagine how thrilled and enthralled you'd be with that opportunity to be a part of your favorite show, to be a part of your favorite movie, to be a part of your favorite game, and to pretty much inspire other people that have inspired you the same way, right? Through the method that inspired you the same way. Now think about how God is using you for the purpose of his plan and for the purpose of his glory, right? We are in a life, which I'm sure I like my life very much. I'm not sure that everybody does, but it's a blessing to be alive each and every day. And I thank God for that each and every day. But every day, we have a chance to be a part of the glory of the creator, the one who made this quote unquote game, the one who made this quote unquote movie, the one who made everything around us. We have a chance to be a part of his plan for the next coming days, the next coming weeks, the next coming years. And how incredible and how cool is that? The God of the universe, who has planned out, who knows what's going to happen for the future, right? Wants you to be a part of his plan for the future. How incredible is that? You get to be a part of the next chapter of anybody's story, of anybody's book, because God's the one writing it. And he can write you into wherever, he can write you into whatever, he can write you into whoever, because he is just that good. He's that great of a God. He's that powerful that he doesn't need, there's no limit on him. He can do anything. His only limit is how much you believe in him. Because we see that Jesus went to a town to heal them. And I'm pretty sure it's recited in Matthew and in Mark. I'm pretty sure Mark. He went to a town to heal people, and he could do no great thing, save for heal a couple people, or he went in town to do more than heal people, but he could only do a couple healings because the people had no belief. They had no faith in him. And so the only limit to how much God can use you, to how much God can use the person he chose, like he chose you. So the only limit to how much he can use the person he chose is your faith in him or lack thereof. There is no other restraint, there is no other restriction, there is no other thing stopping him from using you other than you. And it's a very powerful thing to fully grasp. I haven't fully grasped it yet. I still try, and I'm trying to incorporate this every single day now on, of like reading my Bible just as often as I pick up my phone. I was sitting in an elevator the other day, and I just instead of pulling out my phone, it seems so silly, like to think about and to say out loud. Instead of pulling out my phone, I like just opened up my Bible and was just reading it on the way down the elevator. And to the me of like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that's a very weird thing to do. But I don't think we should be ashamed for living boldly for the one that chose us to live for him, right? I don't think we should be ashamed of living a life that proclaims so loudly about what we're passionate about. I shouldn't be ashamed. If I can go around so very loudly watching Instagram Reels or going on Snapchat or being so absorbed in YouTube or anything on my phone without shame, I should be able to do that 10 times as much more for God, because God is 1, a million times greater than my phone, 2, a million times more worth it than my phone, and 3, there is so much more about God to be proclaiming about, to be sharing with other people than what's on my phone or what's on Instagram or what's on social media in general. Like, there is so much more merit to opening this thing up and reading it and sharing that with other people than opening this thing up and reading it and sharing that with people. Like, there's so much more joy in doing one than the other, and reading one versus reading the other. And that's what I'm trying to do now, because I realize this thing is a distraction from why God chose you. You look at this thing and you see the world and you see everything that's going on your phone and on the things of this, like, that's on your phone, social media and stuff. It is such a distraction from what God is calling you to do. And when you think about that stuff, when you think about all the social media influencers and who's on your phone and who you're texting right now and blah, 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 it's so easy to forget that you have a calling from the Lord of the universe who chose you to do certain works. And by engaging in that, you're hindering the development that God wants to use you for, right? And when you think about it, it's like, okay, so I'm hindering God's development. I'm hindering a little bit of his plan here and there, but nothing bad has happened, blah, blah, blah. Yes, nothing bad has happened because God is gracious and he provides mercy, but you should not count on it, because at any moment in time, you do it one time too many. You postpone the Lord one time too many, and it's just over. If I can find Proverbs 6, there's a good verse about that. Proverbs 6, verse 6 says, "Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer gathering food for the winter. But you lazy bones, how long will you sleep? When will you wake up? A little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit, scarcity will attack you like an armed robber." And so a little bit more waiting around and seeing how much you can get away with from the Lord, and poverty will just strike on you. And it's not just physical poverty, they mean spiritual poverty as well. Like, you will be deprived of your joy and your happiness if you keep pushing the Lord off, because he is that source, right? Imagine if I wanted water and the whole time I'm taking a water bottle, right, and throwing it across the room. Like, I'm not gonna be able to get water if I keep throwing the source of water away. It doesn't make any sense. And so when we're talking about God and we're talking about him being the source of our joy, when we're like ants that continuously practice these things, continuously build up joy, continuously build up endurance, continuously go to what God is calling us to do, we are wise and we are working in a wise way. But when we're not like the ants, when we're lazy, when we keep casting aside the thing that can give us joy and fulfillment and satisfy our life, all of a sudden, it's much easier to feel sad. All of a sudden, it's much easier to feel away from the Lord. There's another thing that was said in the sermon today, that it has to do with Moses and Pharaoh and the Egyptians, right? Pharaoh's heart was hardened by the Lord, and a lot of people debate about that. But what was said today is that Pharaoh's heart was hardened because he had already chosen what he wanted to do, so God gave him up to his desires. He'd already chosen that he didn't want to listen to the Lord, so God gave him up to his desires. And so if we choose to throw that source of water away, if we choose to throw the source of our joy away, if we choose to ignore the person who called us, who has called us individually to be a part of his plan, he's going to give us up to our desires. He's going to let us do whatever we want. He's going to let us not be a part of his plan. He's going to let us freelance with our lives and kind of live for the world. He's going to let things in the world go right because that's what we want. He's going to let us get famous and powerful because that's what we want. He's going to let us have a lot of money and have a lot of cars and have a lot of people around us that support us but don't really like us because we're rich, and that's just how it goes. because we wanted that. He's a good father. He's going to give us up to our desires, but our desires aren't always the best thing. And so when we restrict ourselves from pursuing our desires, when we focus on why he chose us, when we focus on why we want him as opposed to ourselves, we then realize that God is greater than what we've been doing. God is greater than our own life. God is greater than our own passions. And we can work for him like these ants in Proverbs 6. We can work for his endurance and work for our faith, like it says in James. We can work for the purpose of the body, like it says in 1 Corinthians 12. Like there are so many applications when you realize that God has called you specifically for a reason, that you're not just here on a whim, but you're not just here to live for the world. You're here to live for the Lord because he has called you, and he wants you to be, he wants to use you. He wants you to be a part of his plan. He wants you to be a part of his kingdom, but you have to desire that as well. It's not just a one-sided thing. God just can't want you, and you just live your own way and everything goes well. That's not how it works. I don't know a single time ever in life that someone has wanted to do well on a sporting event. Let's say they wanted to train for the 500 freestyle, and in order to do so, to achieve their goal, the coaches work with them, but they were practicing 100s every day for the 150 freestyle. Like, you're not going to get your goal of 500 freestyle if you're practicing for a completely different thing. You're not going to hit your goal time if you're practicing for a completely different event. So you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to hit the things you want from the Lord. You're not going to be able to be used the way he wants to use you. And you're not going to feel chosen because you're living in a way that is not how chosen people should live. You are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own possession. And that possession is not just to be thrown around and used for every single situation. It's to be set apart. It's to be valued. It's to be cherished. And that is exactly how it should be. That's exactly how God wants us to be. In the same way, like, I value my Bible, right? I highlight it. I study it. I put it in this nice little case. I put it in this nice little case, and I take care of it. It's a prized possession for me because it's God's holy word. Like, I'm not going to just throw this thing around and throw it on a wall or step on it or put it on the ground or whatever, because I honor this word because I think it's something special. It is a prized possession. In the same way, God's just not going to, if you're going to toss yourself around and treat yourself like you're not worth it, what is God supposed to do with that? How is he going to react when he sees his prized possession going around and doing whatever? He's going to be like, okay, since they want this, I'll give it to them, but I feel kind of bad about it. God's never going to feel good about giving you up to the world, but you won't notice because you're too absorbed in what you want and your desires to actually realize that God's calling you to something higher. I fall victim to it. I'm sure everybody's fallen victim to it, that we get too engrossed in the world and their own little mishaps in this world that we forget that God's calling us to something higher. And I want everybody here today to realize that God is calling you to something higher. He's calling you to be someone higher. He's choosing you to be a part of his plan. And the choice that you have today is if you want to be or if you want to reject him. Because if you want to reject him, he will let you do that. He will let you run away. He will let you go back to the world. He will let you be successful in this life, and the next life will be literally living hell for you. But if you choose him, if you choose to live for him, if you choose to be a part of his plan, if you let him use you the way he wants to, then you will have joy that is everlasting. Your endurance will be built up. Your credit will be built up. And you will find out what it means to be a part of that body, to be useful in a way that you may never have even imagined before. And so I wanted to leave you with the thought today that if you're ever asking yourself, why me? Why did God choose me? Why did God want me in this position? It's because he has a plan for you. He wants to use you in his plan. And you may not see it now, but like this notebook in my Bible, and like the many other things I mentioned today, he is saving you for the right time. And he is saving the things that you've endured. Your endurance and your credit is being built up for a time that's later than now. It's being built up for a time that you can't see yet. And so when that situation happens, you'll look back and wonder, oh, so this is why God had me go through that situation. So this is why God had me cut off this friend. So this is why God had me go through this terrible loss in my family. So this is why God had me go through this breakup. Because he wanted me to be able to be a light to others down the line. Because he wanted me to be able to be a testimony to other people. To be a testament of God's grace, of his mercy, of his love. And when you see that, when you recognize that that credit is built up for something later down the line, it helps you be able to be in situations where you're like, God, please choose me. You go from asking why me to saying, God, choose me. God, put me in this life. Put me in this position so that I can be a light to others' life. And that is the mentality that I want us all to have today. So, if you're thinking why God chose you, if you're wondering why God chose you, open up that scripture, just spend time with Him, allow Him to let you know that you are loved and that you are waiting for a time that may not be now, that may not be in a day, may not be in a month, may not be in a year. But He has a time to use you because you are a prized possession, you are a holy nation, and He will not let you sit aside for no reason. So yeah, that is all I have for today. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out, feel free to comment, feel free to share with a friend, and yeah. That's all I got for today. Maybe I'll go back to freestyling because that was so bad earlier. But yeah, that's all I got. Stay blessed. Have a great Monday, guys. And yeah, see ya. No secret formula. Yeah, I got the Lord instead. He give me strength, like plankton. There was a line at the end of that should have been there, and it just wasn't there. Anyway, it just was not there, bro.